I would have never in a million years thought something like this could happen.
Where did he meet Shanann?
They met and he liked her, she liked him, but I don't think that was love at first sight or anything.
And they got married in 2012. Did they get married in North Carolina?
They did. We didn't attend.
Really?
We didn't attend because Shanann and I just couldn't get along. I didn't like the way she treated him. That marriage should have ended a long time ago.
Shanann's pregnancy and what did Chris tell you about that? Was he excited?
No, I don't think he was. And he said that they have been talking about divorce, that they are not compatible anymore. He was not happy anymore. I finally thought, he's finally seen the light. He's finally seen the light.
Chris had never been in trouble with the law?
Never. He's got one speeding ticket and didn't even know about that. He was going to punish Chris and take the girls and just punish him. I had no idea. I mean, Christopher let everybody come in. Her phone is there. Her purse is there. Everything is there. And when we got down there, it was a lie. They wouldn't let us talk to him about anything. And then we had to talk to him through a screen and a phone about Bella. And I talked about Cece and the memorial service that we had for them. And he asked what pictures did we use, and what was the song. We're just here, we're going to save his life. We want him to get life in prison. It was like they already knew he was in Colorado. All I want is the truth. I just want the truth. I don't know. I just can't see him doing that. But if he didn't do it, if he did not do it, I need someone to defend him if he did not do this. Do they have the evidence? There's doubt. I have doubt.
It's 6:47 p.m., January 9th, 2025. Inside a quiet cell at Dodge Correctional Institution, a man sits alone at a small metal desk. Under the dim flicker of a single fluorescent light, he's writing again. Page after page, the same message repeats, written carefully, almost reverently. God has forgiven me. The name at the bottom of each letter is one that still divides America, Chris Watts. The same man who took everything from his family in one August morning back in 2018. And now, 7 years later, he claims heaven has absolved him. But forgiveness, from who? And what does forgiveness even mean when the world still can't forget? He says he's changed, that the man who committed those acts no longer exists. Yet every word he writes seems to reopen the wounds of those who can never move on. His letters don't just speak to God. They speak to all of us, about guilt, belief, and the uncomfortable question of whether a monster can ever become a man again. These pages were never meant to be seen by the public. But once they surfaced, they reignited everything the world tried to bury: faith, doubt, and the uneasy collision between justice and redemption. Tonight, we're not here to retell the crime. We're here to understand what came after, the prison sermons, the confessions no one asked for, and the spiritual theater of a man who says his soul is free even as his body remains behind bars. This is Killer Chris Watts Says God Has Forgiven Him in Prison Letters. A story about faith claimed, forgiveness questioned, and a country still searching for closure. Before we begin, if you value powerful true stories like this one, take a moment to subscribe, like, and share. It helps more than you know. Tell me in the comments, where are you watching this from? Every time you engage, you help bring light to stories that deserve to be remembered. And to our loyal viewers, thank you for standing with us. Your support keeps this channel alive, independent, and fearless. Join our membership today to unlock exclusive behind-the-scenes content, early releases, and help us keep producing the documentaries that matter. Now, let's begin. Because some letters don't just tell a story, they question everything we thought we knew about guilt, God, and what it really means to be forgiven. It's May 12, 2018, 3 months before the name Chris Watts would enter every American living room. Frederick, Colorado is calm, trimmed lawns, children's bikes on driveways, the kind of quiet that feels earned. Inside one beige 2-story house, Shanann Watts holds up her phone and smiles for Facebook Live. "Hey guys," she says, upbeat and glowing, "I just wanted to show you how proud I am of my husband." Chris appears beside her, half smile, arms crossed. She's been keeping me in shape, he says softly. The comments light up with hearts. For a few seconds, the couple looks untouchable, young, fit, successful. When the camera stops, so does the warmth. The same home that looked alive online is silent except for the hum of the refrigerator. They've fallen behind on bills, maxed out cards, and borrowed against hope. Shannon covers it with energy, Chris covers it with quiet. She tells friends, he's just tired from work. He nods, pretending to agree. Beneath that stillness is the start of a rift neither will name. Shannon's life runs on lists, appointments, school notes, Thrive promotions. Perfection isn't vanity, it's survival. The more uncertain her marriage feels, the tighter she plans. If I keep us organized, she texts a friend, everything will settle. That same week, Chris begins spending longer at the gym and eating separately from the family. To her, it's discipline. To him, it's escape. On June 17, Father's Day, she posts a tribute, Chris, you're the best dad us girls could ask for. The photo shows him hugging Bella and Cece on the living room carpet. Viewers see love, investigators will later see detachment. His search history that week includes how to start a new life, best of workouts, and romantic getaways. Shannon's phone shows how to reconnect with your husband. 2 devices in the same marriage, asking opposite questions. Friends notice the distance. She seemed exhausted, recalls Nicole Atkinson. She kept saying she didn't understand what changed. Shannon hides the worry behind social media brightness, photos of family dinners, cheerful captions, a smile that begins to look rehearsed. When her mother asks, "Are you two okay?" she answers, "He's just distracted." By July, she's 15 weeks pregnant with a boy she names Nico. She films the reveal on her phone, holding a tiny shirt that reads, "Oops, we did it again." Chris smiles politely. "That's nice," he says, and walks away. Later she texts a friend, "He used to be excited about things like this. Now he barely looks at me." The message ends with a heart emoji, digital optimism against growing dread. Psychologists call this stage the illusion of stability, when appearances become a substitute for connection. Shannon keeps performing love because stopping feels like surrender. Chris keeps performing calm because confrontation feels like exposure. Each believes silence will buy peace. It only buys distance. Their neighbors remember lights flicking on at odd hours, muted arguments through walls, a man leaving early, returning later. None of it seemed alarming. In suburban life, politeness often hides alarm bells. One neighbor told police later, they looked perfect. You never expect perfect to break. By the end of July, Shannon prepares for a business trip to Arizona. She plans to leave the girls with Chris, hoping the time apart might reset them. The night before she leaves, she writes him a note, "I love you more than life. Please don't give up on us." He places it on the counter and never opens it. When she boards the plane the next morning, she texts him, "Take lots of pictures of the girls for me." He replies hours later, "Will do." Simple words, harmless to anyone else, but to her they sting, a reminder that she's talking to someone who's already somewhere else. Back home in Colorado, Chris jogs, grills dinner for the kids, and answers friendly texts from coworkers. Outwardly, nothing's wrong. But his messages to a new contact, saved under a false name, grow more frequent. He tells her, "It's nice to finally talk to someone who listens." Those words will later appear in evidence logs, the moment his double life begins to breathe. Shannon, unaware, records one last cheerful video from her hotel room. "I can't wait to see my girls and my husband," she says. "Family means everything to me." She smiles at the camera, then sighs, not realizing it will become one of her final recordings. The illusion is still intact, a house, 2 children, a marriage that looks unbreakable to everyone watching. But inside, love has turned into routine, and routine into vacancy. The world will later search these clips, trying to find clues that were never visible because they were never loud. The disintegration of a family doesn't always start with shouting, sometimes it starts with quiet agreement to pretend everything's fine. When Shannon returns from her trip in early August, she believes distance might heal what silence damaged. She has no idea the man waiting at home has already rewritten their future. It's July 31, 2018. The summer heat in North Carolina feels heavy, the kind that sticks to your skin and slows your thoughts. Shannon has taken Bella and Cece to visit her parents while Chris stays home in Colorado. On the surface, the separation looks routine, a mom visiting family before the new baby arrives. But inside her messages, you can feel the unease. He's quiet, she texts a friend. Colder than ever. I don't know what's going on. Chris, alone at home, is living a different reality. His days revolve around the gym, work, and a growing relationship with Nicole Kessinger. Phone records later show a pattern: early morning messages, late-night calls, hours erased from his usual routine. To Nicole, he's gentle, funny, soft-spoken. He told me they were separating, she said in a later interview. He said it was mutual. I believed him. That belief would soon become one of the most tragic misreadings in modern true crime history. While Shannon spends evenings with her parents, she still tries to hold on. She sends videos of the girls playing, voice notes full of affection. "We miss you, Daddy," Bella says into the camera. His reply is short: "Tell them I love them." The distance is no longer physical, it's spiritual. Every unanswered call becomes proof of something she can't name. Her mother later said, "She told me she felt him slipping away, like she couldn't reach him anymore." On August 4, Shannon sends a text that investigators later describe as pivotal evidence. "I don't know how we fell out of sync," she writes, "but I feel it. You don't touch me anymore. You don't talk to me. You don't ask about the baby. You act like you don't care." The next morning, Chris replies, "I love you, but I'm not in love with you." It's short, precise, cruel in its calmness. Shannon saves the message, forwarding it to a friend with 3 words: "My heart's broken." Psychologists who later analyzed the case described this stage as emotional extinction. It's the point where one partner detaches entirely, often without confrontation. The silence becomes its own weapon. Shannon still believes she can fix it. She schedules counseling, plans a sit-down when she returns. Her text reads, "Maybe when I'm home, we can talk. I don't want to lose us." He doesn't answer. Instead, his phone shows searches like "vacation spots for 2" and "how to start a new relationship." Friends begin to sense something wrong. Nicole Atkinson, her closest confidant, recalls, she said she was scared, not of him, but of what was happening to him. She couldn't explain it. Even as the anxiety builds, Shannon masks it with optimism. Her social media remains filled with positive posts, smiling selfies, and motivational quotes about love and forgiveness. But her private messages tell the truth, fear wrapped in politeness. The weekend before she returns home, Shannon writes a handwritten letter. "I'm still here," it begins. "I love you. I'm willing to rebuild if you are. Please don't give up on us." The letter would later be found in her purse, unopened. On August 12, she texts one last time before boarding her flight, "I can't wait to see you and the girls. Let's make things right." Chris replies, "We'll talk." At 1:48 a.m. on August 13, she lands in Denver. Security footage captures her walking through the airport, rolling her suitcase, tired but hopeful. She texts her friend, "Just got home. So tired." It's the last message she will ever send. Investigators later reconstructed his movements that morning: the early wake-up, the garage door opening, the silent hours no one can account for. What matters more than those actions is what they represent: a man who had emotionally erased his family before he ever touched them. When detectives asked Chris what he remembered from that night, his voice dropped to a whisper. "It was quiet," he said. "Too quiet." That line would echo through every courtroom and every broadcast that followed, a single sentence that carried the weight of everything left unsaid. The tragedy of the Watts family wasn't sudden. It unfolded through small absences, words unsent, calls ignored, love reduced to habit. Shannon came home believing distance could heal them. Instead, she walked into the silence he had already chosen. By early July 2018, the man everyone thought they knew was already gone. Chris Watts had built a quiet, double life, one for the world, one for himself. At Anadarko Petroleum, co-workers noticed subtle changes. He began dressing better, eating differently, spending more time on his phone. When asked about it, he laughed it off, trying to get in shape. In truth, he was texting another woman, Nicole Kessinger, a contract worker who believed she was dating a man whose marriage was over. Their connection started innocently enough, conversations about work, fitness, and life goals. But within weeks, it became the alternate reality Chris craved. To Nicole, he was kind, attentive, and emotionally available. To his wife, he was withdrawn, restless, unrecognizable. Investigators later pieced together his days from phone pings and search history, romantic playlists, candlelit dinners, and late-night drives that ended nowhere near home. Nicole told detectives, he said he was separated, that they were finalizing things. "He made me believe it was real." As his affair deepened, so did his transformation. He shaved his beard, changed his wardrobe, and started following self-improvement accounts online. Shannon noticed the difference immediately. "He's acting like a teenager again," she texted a friend. "He says he's just getting healthy, but I feel like I don't know him." Friends encouraged her to give him space. She did, not realizing that the more room she gave, the faster he filled it with someone else. Digital forensics later exposed the full scope of his deception. On one night in late July, while Shannon was texting, "I miss you," Chris was searching how to tell someone you love them for the first time. He wasn't talking about his wife. The contrast between his public life and his hidden one was stark: two sets of messages, two emotional tones, one man splitting in two. Psychologists studying the case called it identity compartmentalization. In plain words, Chris had created an alternate self. The confident version of who he wished he were, unburdened by marriage, debt, or expectation. Every lie he told Nicole made the fantasy stronger. Every text he ignored from Shannon made reality fade. When asked later how he managed to live that contradiction, he said simply, "It felt easier." Nicole noticed changes too. She told investigators, he said he wanted to have a fresh start. He talked about moving away, building a new life. But by the first week of August, his messages grew shorter. She recalled, "He seemed nervous, distracted. I asked if everything was okay, and he said he had things to fix at home." That would be their final exchange before the world learned who he truly was. The most chilling discovery came from his search history the night before Shannon returned home. "Can people start a new life with someone after separation?" followed minutes later by, "How long does DNA last on clothing?" These weren't random clicks, they were windows into a mind collapsing under its own invention. When agents asked Chris, months later, if he ever loved Nicole, his answer was hollow. "At the time, I thought I did," he said. "But it was all fake. I was living a lie." The interviewer paused before asking, "Whose lie?" He didn't respond. That silence spoke louder than any confession. As Shannon's plane descended into Denver on August 12, her husband was already gone, replaced by a man who'd convinced himself that starting over required erasure. The double life had reached its limit. There was no longer one Chris Watts, only the shadow of a man who believed he could rebuild happiness on the ashes of everything that loved him. It's January 2020. 2 years have passed since the murders, and Chris Watts wakes each morning to the same sound, the clang of metal doors and the echo of boots in the corridor. Dodge Correctional Institution has become his permanent world, a place where time moves in predictable circles. But in that confinement, he's found something new to cling to: religion. He begins attending Bible study sessions, reading scripture for hours, and exchanging letters with strangers who write to him about forgiveness. In one of his earliest responses, dated March 18, 2020, he writes, "I know I don't deserve it, but God has forgiven me." The handwriting is steady, deliberate, the kind of neatness that suggests he's rehearsed the line many times before. He tells another correspondent, "The hardest part wasn't the life sentence, it was learning to forgive myself. But I'm free on the inside now." Forensic psychologists who later analyzed his letters described them as reconstruction through spirituality. To the untrained eye, they sound humble. But beneath the words, experts saw a man trying to reclaim control of his own narrative. In interviews, he quoted 2 Corinthians 5 verse 17, "Therefore, if anyone is in Christ, he is a new creation." He wrote it in nearly every letter, as though repetition could turn guilt into grace. Religious transformation behind bars isn't uncommon. For some inmates, faith offers a structure to endure the monotony of guilt. For others, it becomes performance, a moral stage where words replace remorse. Watts's writings blur the line. He speaks often of salvation, rarely of Shanann, Bella, or Celeste by name. Instead, he calls them "my family," abstract and distant, as if naming them makes their absence too real. To the public, the idea of his forgiveness felt unbearable. Shanann's parents said in an interview, "He found God after taking everything from us. We believe in forgiveness too, but that's between him and God, not between him and us." Their statement reminded viewers of a deeper truth: repentance can't erase consequence. When journalists obtained copies of his prison letters in 2025, their tone had shifted. Early messages sounded remorseful, newer ones read almost triumphant. "God saved me for a reason," he wrote. "I'm here to spread his word." In another, "I see my girls in heaven, smiling. They've forgiven me. I feel peace." Those sentences sparked outrage online. How could a man who ended lives claim divine peace while their loved ones lived with daily pain? Experts on faith and justice weighed in, noting that redemption without accountability becomes self-serving. "He's rewritten his story to survive it," one criminologist explained. "He's not escaping guilt, he's managing it." Inside his cell, the ritual never changes: prayer, letters, scripture, sleep. He calls it healing. Others call it denial. In one of his final letters made public, he wrote, "My body is here, but my spirit is free." Forgiveness may have become his shield, but truth has a way of surviving even in silence. And in every word he writes, the world still hears the echo of what was taken: a family erased, a faith misused, and a story that refuses to rest. It's been 7 years since the murders. The house in Frederick, Colorado, still stands, pale, quiet, and empty. The blinds stay closed, the front yard unkept. The neighbors say they rarely look at it anymore, but sometimes, when the wind passes through, the sound of the old swing in the yard makes people stop walking. To the world, it's a house. To the family, it's a grave that never got a headstone. The internet never stopped talking about the case. Every few months, a new documentary, podcast, or video resurfaces. Comment sections overflow with anger, sympathy, or fascination. People analyze Shanann's old videos, pausing her smiles like evidence. "Did you see the way he looked at her?" one viewer writes. Another replies, "She had no idea." Millions of strangers have turned their lives into a puzzle to be solved, an obsession dressed as curiosity. Shanann's parents say they stopped watching years ago. "We can't keep reliving it," her father once said quietly. She was more than what happened to her. For them, grief has become a kind of background noise, always there, even when life goes on. They visit her grave on holidays, leaving flowers for the girls. "We forgive because we have to survive," her mother explained in an interview. But forgiving doesn't mean forgetting. Meanwhile, inside Dodge Correctional, Chris continues to write. His letters are collected by true crime enthusiasts online, scanned, shared, dissected. In one dated September 2025, he writes, "I'm at peace. I know my purpose now is to help others find God." To his supporters, it sounds redemptive. To the rest of the world, it sounds hollow. The contrast between his serenity and the family's ongoing pain feels like an open wound the internet won't let close. Forensic analysts have noted that his newer letters show little emotional change. They've become sermons, one prison psychologist explained. He's not processing guilt, he's narrating over it. What unsettles experts most isn't his faith but his composure. True remorse tends to unravel people, his seems to keep him balanced. Outside the prison walls, the What's case became a mirror for modern obsession. Social media, once used by Shanann to celebrate life, now feeds the posthumous narrative of her death. TikTok edits her videos into haunting montages. YouTube channels replay her Facebook lives as signs of hidden pain. Every repost reanimates the story, keeping both victim and killer alive in the digital ether. Psychologists call it grief looping, when the public refuses to let tragedy die because it's easier to watch than to heal. But buried beneath the noise is a quieter truth, one about love, expectation, and the fragility of perception. Shanann wasn't naive, she was human. She believed in her family, believed that hard work and patience could fix what was broken. And Chris, despite everything he took, wasn't a monster born overnight. He was a man who stopped confronting his emptiness until it consumed him. The horror lies not in the extremes but in the ordinary, in how silence, resentment, and avoidance can grow into catastrophe. When Banfield aired the story of his letters, the debate reignited. Can evil ever be forgiven? And who decides when it is? Religious leaders weighed in, each offering different answers. Some said forgiveness is unconditional, others said it must be earned. But none could reconcile the image of a man writing peace into existence while 3 graves remain filled. In one televised interview, Shanann's mother said, "He says God forgave him, but that's between him and God. The rest of us are still here, living with what he did." Her words carried a weight deeper than anger, the exhaustion of a parent trapped in the same story the world refuses to stop retelling. By 2025, the house was still unsold. Realtors stopped showing it. It stands as a physical reminder of something people try to intellectualize, that true evil doesn't always shout. Sometimes it smiles for family photos, packs lunch boxes, and walks the dog before work. And sometimes it writes letters from prison, convinced that salvation can erase memory. In the end, this story isn't about Chris Watts alone. It's about the culture that won't look away, the viewers, the readers, the ones who replay tragedy to feel something. Every click, every comment, every replay keeps his name alive and his family's peace just out of reach. Forgiveness, real forgiveness, isn't declared in a letter. It's earned through truth, through action, through a lifetime of living without excuses. Whether he's found peace or not doesn't change the emptiness left behind. Some wounds outlast the bodies they came from. So, when Chris writes that he's been forgiven, maybe the better question isn't who forgave him, but who he was asking. Because forgiveness without truth isn't grace. It's erasure. And for those who still carry the memory of Shanann, Bella, Celeste, and baby Nico, forgiveness doesn't come written in ink. It comes from the daily choice to remember them as they lived, not as they were taken. Before you go, take a moment. If stories like this one move you, support those who continue to tell them with honesty and empathy. Subscribe, share, and help keep true storytelling alive, stories that honor victims, not those who silence them. Where are you watching this from tonight? Your voice matters. Comment below, join the conversation, and help this community bring light where darkness once lived. And to everyone who's been here since the beginning, thank you. Your support keeps this work alive, independent, and fearless. Together, we make sure that names like Shanann, Bella, and Celeste are never reduced to headlines again. Because some stories must keep being told, not to glorify the crime, but to remind us what love, faith, and truth still mean in a world that forgets too easily.